Hello, I'm Sarah, and I thought I would talk a bit today about the boring task of setting up a household budget. Now, this is one of those things that actually sounds like a really tedious and hard thing to do, but it's actually pretty basic. Great if you've got Microsoft Excel and you can set up like a spreadsheet, but if not, a pen and paper and a calculator if you're not so good at maths like me. What I'm going to do is, I'm not going to give you our household budget, but I'm just going to estimate, pull a few figures out of the air, general incoming, outgoings, so you get the idea. I'm going to base it on a family with an income of $900 a week. Your income might not be the exact same amount each week. We're an example of that because Clint gets paid on an hourly basis. So I just base ours on the least we're going to get. So the minimum that you expect to get incoming. So then if you've got a bit of extra, then yay. The next thing you need to do is figure out your outgoings. Now this is things that are standard things that come out every single week. So if we say you've got $300 a week going out for either mortgage or rent, $80 a week you might be filling up your car with petrol. Let's say your electricity, your power bill is $200 a month. You then want to whittle that down to per week, so that'd come down to $50 a week. Your phone and your internet, let's say you're paying $90 a month for that. That comes down to, divide it by 4, $22.50 a week. Things like school fees, you want to think up everything you can that money goes towards throughout the year. Let's just say you're paying $40 per term for school fees. Here in New Zealand it's a 4-term year, so that's $40 times 4, it comes to $160. Divide it by 52 weeks in a year, that comes to $3.07 per week to put aside for that. Let's just say your rates bill is $2,000 a year. Divide that into weeks, $38.46 per week. You might want to allow for like hobbies. Case in point, my daughter Olivia does Taekwondo. That's $15 a month. So whittle that down. It's $3.75 per week. Your insurance, house, contents, car insurance, let's say $250 a month you pay for that, so divide it by 4, it's about $62.50 a week. And let's say your food bill comes to about $200 a week. After all said and done, in that example, from our $900, we've got $760.28 per week that needs to come out of that. So that is money that you need to keep in an account that is only for those things. So don't use that money for anything else. There should be about $139.72 in that account there. I would advise the first thing to do, if you've got money owing on credit cards or anything nasty like that, try and get rid of that first. Because credit cards, you've got interest constantly accruing on it, and if you don't get them down, trust me, I know, they can get on top of you. So that's the first thing you want to do, pay off your credit card. You want to allow some of that money each week just to keep in your account because things come up. Every now and then you want to buy a coffee, it's a bit of sanity thing. My husband's a tradesman, he's always needing to get tools. My kids, they're needing to be clothed. Kids are the most expensive pets you will ever have, seriously. But they constantly need things. So you got to allow a bit of breathing room each week. So you want to set aside a certain amount, however much you think. You might also want to do little separate, maybe savings accounts for short-term goals. Like one of ours is we really need a new computer. And so we've actually set up a separate savings account, and whenever we've got a bit left over at the end of the week, I put some money into that account. We've also got a separate account for putting a bit of money aside each week to spend on our farm. Now you might want to save up for things like Christmas. If you're like us and you've got 3 kids, I've got nieces and nephews to buy for as well, but just as an example, if you've got 3 kids and you want to spend $50 each on them for a Christmas present, you need to put about $3 aside into an account. And by the end of the year, that'd come to $52 each. So even if it doesn't cover their whole Christmas present or whatever, it really does take the burden off quite a bit. Now, I'd also advise having a savings account that is just not to touch, because you just don't know when something's going to crop up. You might need emergency dental work all of a sudden. you really don't want to be throwing stuff like that at your credit card if you can help it. The savings account, that can also be in case your car dies on you. I mean, that can cost thousands. This was before we had kids. We were both working. We were paying lump sums off the mortgage as often as we could. Whenever we came to refinance the mortgage, we'd take a good $5,000 or something off it. And that cut down the life of our mortgage drastically. And we'd actually built up quite a lot in savings, and then the recession hit. I was a few months off giving birth to Olivia, our eldest daughter, and Clint got made redundant and could not find another job to save himself. So that was sort of panic stations. Getting the benefit in New Zealand was not easy. But what we did was we organised it with the banks. We actually stopped paying off our mortgage. We were paying interest only for a while there. So we didn't stop the mortgage payments, but just through our savings, we were paying off the bare minimum interest. You know, we were sort of living off the smell of an oily rag. But we had that money in savings, and that just absolutely saved us. So I'd hate to have been without that during that time. It was a bit stressful, but you know, we managed it, we got through it. And now there's no sort of lump sums coming off our mortgage anymore because we got 3 kids. Let's just say if your expenses, if all your weekly expenses that I mentioned add up to more than what you're actually got incoming, yep, that's a pretty hard situation to be in. Now, what I would suggest you do then is look into how you can reduce those expenses. So, you know, can you use your car a bit less? Can you reduce your petrol? Your food bill, of course, you can reduce your food bill. Hey, I'd recommend looking at my other videos, ways to do that. Just as a wee example, of course, my first video I ever did was how to make crumpets. Now, we actually got the calculator and worked it out. Just by making crumpets, we say we're not buying an extra 2 boxes of cereal each week, and that comes to over $600 a year that we're saving just by making crumpets for breakfast. So, I mean, just little things like that, you can find ways of cutting down your food bill. Things like your electricity bill and your phone bill, I recommend at least once a year you ring about and see what kind of deal you can get. Even if you just ring up your current phone supplier and say, hey, I'm just looking at switching companies, are you giving me the best deal? You might often find that they'll either give you a one-off payment to stay with them as an incentive, or they may even reduce the amount. If you get a better deal elsewhere, then by all means switch. It's not hard switching phone and electricity companies. They do all the work for you. All you've got to do is say yes, do it, and they'll bend over backwards. Case in point, we recommended somebody that Clint used to work with that she ring around electricity companies, and her current supplier promised to not give her an increase over the next couple of years if she stuck with them, and she got a free washing machine from them, which she actually desperately needed. So, you know, you just never know what you're going to get if you ask, so it is worth asking for a discount. Credit card, let's talk those nasty things. I put everything I can on my credit card because I am very disciplined. Some call it stingy. I like to call it disciplined. I know exactly what I can and cannot spend, and every single week, on the very day that we get paid, it gets paid off. The reason I put everything on my credit card is because we accrue hot points and we can cash that in for vouchers, for Mitre 10 or Bunnings vouchers or whatever to spend on the land. So that's quite handy for us. But if you're not that disciplined, I would not recommend a credit card. Some people have actually recommended, once you get paid, actually take some money out of a cash machine. You've got cash in hand, and that's all you're allowed to spend for the week on lunches out or whatever. You gotta work out what's best for you in that respect. Mortgage. When we first took out our mortgage, we took out a 25-year mortgage, and we've got about 9 years left to go on it, so we're kind of on a downward slope there, yay. Never ever put things on your mortgage unless you absolutely need to. For us, the paying off the mortgage has always been first and foremost. We just want to get rid of that as soon as we can. The only one time we put something on the mortgage was when I was pregnant with Aston, and our current car would not fit 3 car seats in the back, so we desperately needed a new car, so we did end up putting that on the mortgage, and we've actually been trying to always pay off a little bit more than what we need to, because it really makes such a difference. Retirement savings, of course, that's worth doing. In New Zealand we have a Kiwi Saver scheme, which we're part of. Now, a good few years ago, I did all the calculations. I figured out that, me and Clint will be getting on all right in our retirement, but there might not be big extravagant holidays or anything. And I thought, well, where's the fun in that? So I've made my own little pledge and opened up my own very high interest savings account, where every single time I take money off the credit card, $1 goes into that account. So, a bit more if we've got a bit excess. So I've got my own little savings account that's going to be for me and Clint to go on a big holiday when we retire, which a lot of people think that and they think that's way off in the future. But when the day comes, I'm going to be patting myself on the back big time. I hope this was of some help. Let me know if you've got any questions, any comments, anything I said that made no sense. That's probably a pretty common occurrence. Give us a like, give us a comment, please subscribe, and as always, have fun out there. Bye.